Rhodes.
Here.
Simmons.
Here.
Thank you. If we could rise for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The agendas before you, Mark, do you have any additions or corrections? We have two sets of replacement information. There's no additions to the agenda, but two of the resolutions were altered. And I can go into that in more detail as we get to them. They're on our desk. The minutes from June 2nd were sent out by Karen. Is there a motion for approval of the minutes of June 2nd?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Questions, additions, corrections, anyone? Anyone? Hearing none, all in favor of the minutes as written, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our study session is an interesting one. Last meeting, citizens came to us to talk about the handicap swing that had been eliminated for safety reasons at Hemlock. And we assured them we'd work hard and fast on it, and Heather went to work hard and fast on it. And she'll start us off. Heather?
Yeah. So I was in contact with a couple of different manufacturers. So before you see this type of swing that they'll sell to us, but they recommend that it has a fence around it because of the swing itself. If it's not monitored, it could hit somebody. And so they recommend fencing that particular swing. Likewise with this one from Sinclair Recreation, found that if you see in this picture that there's a fence around it, and I brought that forward to the Park and Rec Board. And they didn't like the idea of there being a fence and a locked gate. So I moved forward and found a different swing. It's called a glider. Actually, Mark Gifford and myself, we were at a conference together. We had the opportunity to talk to a recreation manufacturer at that time, and we were very intrigued by this one. So I brought this forward to the park board, and they were ecstatic about it. However, today I went down to the park and found that we already have this type of swing, the glider. It's located in the playground itself, and you can get onto it when you first get onto the playground structure. So that being said, given the background, today, Mark Gifford and myself, we kind of started looking at other options. And the one that we found that could work is this item. And what's particular about this one is that it has an apparatus that comes out in the middle and it drops down to the ground. So therefore the swing will be stopped and it will hit that item that's attached to the port-in-place structure. This costs $25,000, and we found that installing the port-in-place and putting in a structure is roughly between $15,000 to $20,000. So at this point, I am looking for some direction in terms of if I should go to the park board and get their opinion to move forward, or if you as the commission are comfortable with us moving forward with just replacing what was out there prior.
So, having watched the park board meeting, I had heard that there was some funding that was allocated. Does this fall within that range to have some of it covered also? Would this structure potentially be covered by that funding source?
That would be up to the city commission, city manager to decide how those funds would be used. But yes, the Riverwalk Fund has more money in it than we've had in the past. Typically we get $10,000 and we put it towards the Riverwalk itself. This year we have $40,000. And they did approve the notion of purchasing a wheelchair swing with the Riverwalk funds as they saw it was fitting.
And then with this structure, it looks from my perspective right here like it's a front and back swing, like if you were sitting on a swing. Is that how it would operate? Does it have a need for fencing around it?
I don't believe this would require fencing just because of that apparatus that sticks out and it would stop the swing. from
Okay.
going too far.
Okay.
But I have to get confirmation from the manufacturer.
Okay, because I know one thing that had been cited was the concern that when those swings have to be locked up, oftentimes, more often than not, they're locked up, meaning the child who wants and needs to use it doesn't have access to using it, at which point, what's the point in having the swing? So I just was wondering if we'd known
Yes.
about that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Heather, did the folks who came to the meeting last time to talk about, no swing for the wheelchair, did they know we had that other thing in the jungle gym part of the?
I am not certain if they know that or not.
Was there need for anything if that one works adequately with wheelchair? Is there a need for another one?
I don't, myself personally, I don't know that that's necessary, being that we've already have the structure there in place with the playground. However, with the city manager and myself having conversation about usage, one questions if you are not having adequate opportunities for those that are probably a little bit more on the spectrum in terms of what their abilities are and interacting with others and playing and what have you.
In that way, you'd look toward a more isolated unit, away from the jungle gym and all that.
That's what this would essentially be, yes. Unless we wanted to put it somewhere near by the playground. There is space available near the swing sets themselves. There's an open spot, and we could temporarily remove the fencing that's currently there alongside Hemlock Street to allow for the contractor to get into that spot. Or we put it separate like it was prior.
I liked where it was prior because it gave a nice view of the river. Does this come with a warranty of any kind?
I have no idea. I'm sure there probably is some sort of warranty that comes with it.
The one that you showed us that I thought we were going to really look at purchasing, can you go back?
Yep.
That's an amazing, safe sort of thing, I'll tell you. And you said that was down in?
There's one in Kent County.
Okay.
Mayor, if I jump in,
Yeah.
there's nothing to say we couldn't purchase this one. It's just, it is similar to an apparatus. It's not the same. It's not the same as one that's in there. But it's similar in terms of how it works.
Correct.
This looks like a whole family could join their
Right.
handicapped child on that unit and swing.
Yeah.
That's attractive to me versus the other one where just the wheelchair sits there. This kind of looks like a family bonding unit, kind of. Is that right, Helen?
I would agree with that statement, and that was what, when we had this initial discussion, that's what the individuals that came to the meeting were encouraging, to allow for interaction where the family members could sit with them, which is why it intrigued the city manager and myself.
What did the park board decide? Did they decide on any particular one or no? Not any
They
recommendation?
were ecstatic about this one,
But
Hadn't seen the next one. Is that
but they
correct?
hadn't seen the other
The
one
next one.
that we just found today.
Mayor, you had someone.
First, let me finish. Commissioners, anybody else?
Just
Go ahead.
one thing. I think I would be interested in what the park board, what their opinion on is based on the new information we have of having a glider already. If they do prefer staying with the glider, or if they would recommend the most recent model that you guys found.
I was gonna say the same thing, because I know it was brought up at the Parks and Rec meeting. I also watched it that, I don't remember who has brought up that there's also other equipment that is available for handicap, wheelchair accessible. And I know that maybe if we do have something like this already, maybe we could look into doing something like that instead. I know that was an option that she had brought up. So maybe we should send it back to them and let them kind of look into it and see what their thoughts are, and then come back to us.
Specifically because the urgency behind having something like this, having just removed something like this, is, I don't want to say taken away, but if we already have something that fits the ticket for this, we have time to think about it and make the best plan for the park overall.
Sure. I meet with the park board in August. We typically don't meet in July.
Yeah.
That's the
That's the
downside.
ticker.
Do you know what the wait time on that piece of equipment is?
I
Does it
don't.
take 3 months or 2 years?
It probably does take a few months for lead time to get it
And
ordered
you
and
don't
what
know
have you.
exactly on it, all on it?
No,
Okay.
no, I was just simply doing research in terms of cost and safety.
And what was the cost of that one versus the other one?
This glider is $40,000, and the other one that was red is $25,000.
I would rather, having listened to this and understanding that, I would rather see something like this that more people can enjoy and has more uses.
Sit with the child, I think. I mean, that to me is huge.
Even if it were off to the side and not part of the
Right.
closer to the playscape. I like this a lot better than the other swing that we just looked at.
Now, public, please, Wendy.
Wendy Nystrom, 530 Winter Avenue. Isn't there adults that used the swing? That no one's talked about the adults that used the swing. And I'm not. It is important for children as well, but I don't know if there was a lot of adult activity on that swing prior to sit and enjoy the view.
I was
Swing.
thinking about adults being able to use this.
Yeah, for this, especially this, so they
it's-
don't have to go into the jungle gym part and do it. They could do it in a separate area. I think that's a good idea. Good point.
I guess when I was thinking about it, it was for anybody, any age.
Anybody else have thoughts? Heather, did it come from Parks that they're recommending the purchase of that one? No,
They
it
did
was-
make that motion to,
They did, and it passed. And
Yes.
you just happened to bring the other one mainly because of the glider issue?
basically,
this
I
is-
went down to the park today, working on the
wanna-
splash pad stuff, and then happened to see a couple kids going back and forth, and it caught my attention.
Commissioners, you wanna vote on what the Parks and Rec people recommended? Or do you wanna present the red one to them?
So I thought this was just a study session, not a voting item.
It's ready to roll if you wanna, you can vote, you don't have to follow that. I mean, if we think we're ready, if we don't think we're ready, then
So,
Heather will bring it back, I guess, not until August.
do you need direction, do you need formal direction from us in terms of a resolution?
Well, that's certainly, you're right, if it's a question, as the mayor points out, that, you know, maybe not everybody feels the same way. If it's obviously, you know, something you're all feeling like the same direction, and, I'll meet with you over the next week and we can talk individually too. We can get this going, and the Park and Rec Board has recommended it to you.
Yes, we'll see.
We got hung up on the idea that it's very similar to something that's there. But you guys raised a number of very good points in terms of the design of this one and where it's located to make it something that's
That's what I
fine.
feel.
We can go ahead and get a bid package together, and then it would come back to you and you vote on it, if you're okay with that.
I'd be good with that idea.
Just one question. Think through the mindset of an adult using this structure for recreation as well. Do we have any control over the color of the apparatus?
Oh, yeah, certainly. Anytime you
Okay.
purchase any kind of
Just-
equipment, they're gonna give you color schemes to
I'm
select
not
from.
certain that an adult would feel comfortable gliding in a Barney colored
Oh,
glider.
yeah, no, that's a valid point.
To put it as simply as I could.
I didn't even think about the colors.
I did, I was thinking about the color, yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
Some wouldn't mind, although those
Kinda
might feel
off to the
silly.
side.
We're old,
and-
sorry. Doesn't bother us. I wanna go back to the money for just one quick second.
Sure.
So is your plan to use Playscape money for it?
No.
Walk money.
Riverwalk.
Or that's what I meant,
Riverwalk.
Riverwalk.
Yes, yes. We
Yes.
need to put the funding
40,000
package
in there?
together, but yeah, I think that is, money we're looking to use, then we'd have to come up with another 20 or so, which we'll formulate a plan and bring it back to you at the appropriate time, but I don't know why, if the Riverwalk, the mayor pointed this out in a private conversation, that the Riverwalk was based on this accessibility issues. Because I was sort of like, well, we could, you know, that's a lot of money we could use to fix, but that's really what the basis for wanting it for. So it does dovetail very well, I think. And, yeah,
But if this is 40 and there is 40, what's the other 20?
Putting it in.
install.
So it's actually 60.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Total package,
roughly, that's what we
approximately 60.
estimated at.
Okay, Heather, I need to know that.
Whereas the
Trying to slide
secondary,
it by you, Lorraine.
Is that what you're trying to do? Okay.
so from my understanding, the other option would be nearly completely covered by the Riverwalk funds if we
Probably.
allocated that.
Can you
Probably.
flip that red one back up, please,
Yeah.
Heather? It just didn't look user-friendly.
It doesn't, it isn't, well, I mean, it may be, but it
Now,
doesn't.
what did you say about it
But for
stops if
one
it goes too
person,
far? Where's
too.
that?
So you see that centerpiece that's sticking
Show
out?
me with a pointer or something, would you?
Pointer, how about my finger? Right here?
Yeah.
And it goes down to the ground.
Well, that stops them.
That's my interpretation of it, yes.
I think,
Okay.
yeah, I'm so keen on that one.
So I guess that's a good image of what you can get for just under 25,000 as opposed to
Yep.
the 40,000.
See the existing structure again?
The
Sorry.
one that's at the playground right now?
Yes,
Sure.
'cause that's a glider.
Correct,
It's not as,
Fancy.
correct. But it functions in the same
yeah,
method.
families can be there together.
Result of the study session and hearing everyone, I think Mark, and the Parks Commission voted to buy that one. You know, the Barney one, or whatever you call it.
The Barney.
I would move forward with it. What the heck?
Okay.
What do you guys think? Others?
Fine.
So we'll
We'll-
put together a
We
big
will work
packet.
on it. Sorry, Heather.
Very good, thank you, Heather. Heather, were there like thousands of them to choose from? I mean, were you just deluged with ideas? No, that's
Not
about
really.
it, huh?
Not really. It was just kind of ironic timing with Mark and I going to the conference and
see.
having the opportunity to speak to a representative.
Very good, thank you. Anything, anybody else? Study session's over. Public comment, not related items on the agenda. Please,
I would just.
Bill Rowley.
Yes, just a quick question on Simon's Factory. Did they ever complete an exit plan or how they're gonna leave the building?
We're meeting with them next week.
Yes.
Their property manager from South Carolina is coming to Big Rapids to talk to us about Simon's. We
Are they
don't know what
officially
he's got in
closed?
mind.
Are they officially closed now?
No, they're working through the end of this month, I think, is the dates he gave.
He's pretty quiet.
It's pretty off, yeah, I don't think there's a lot of work in
The
there.
front office is all boxes now, and I think it's probably all done. I'm sure they'll wonder if we maybe just would like it. We could put a youth center in there.
Oh, yeah, right.
That was a joke, right? So we're meeting next week.
Yes.
Anybody else? Public comment? Okay, hearing none, we'll move. No public hearing, general business, resolution approving mayoral appointment. That's before you, commission. It's for a planning commission.
Kate McLeod
Kate McLeod.
has been on the planning commission, being reappointed, and does a nice job on there for us.
Do I hear a motion for the resolution appointing Kate?
So moved.
Second,
There's a motion and a second. Further questions? Better call a roll.
James,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Rhodes,
Yes.
Simmon,
yes.
Gunther.
Yes, thank you. Next is Carla's favorite thing at the end of the year to adjust the 24-25 budget to what it really is. Carla, is there anything, it's in before you, is there anything that stands out, Carla, that we should really hear about that we're not paying or should
Well,
be
just a
paying?
couple highlights on the fire engine, we decided to go ahead with that purchase, so we did add funds to that. The other was the old jail in Berglund House, we didn't have budget set for that, so we had to add money there, and we did get a contribution from them when they closed out their accounts of $37,200. They were given grant funds for some facilities and the expansion bus grant. So we added both the revenue and the expenditure for that. The other thing was their salaries, part-time was over, but part of that is because they now receive sick pay as part of that. So that did increase that. The other one was in motor pool, because we had some insurance money that we got for the rescue truck and the airport tractor. And Steve was able to find us some good deals on those two items. We actually had a little bit of money left over from what the insurance that we got for those items. So we had to set budgets for those as well. Wasn't something we were expecting.
Commissioners, questions for Carla on the budget adjustments?
No,
Rain.
she fixed mine.
Oh, okay.
I had one earlier. We fixed it.
Anybody else? Public, anything? Then I think, we'll take a vote. Go ahead, Karen. I have a resolution first.
I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Call the question, please.
Johnson,
Yes.
Rhodes,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Gunther,
Yes.
James.
Yes.
Next is a major item for this meeting, and that is the resolution accepting the agreement with the firefighters union. Is, who's talking?
I'll start, Mayor, and if something pops up, maybe others could help. First off, I'd like to say thank you. I know Sean and Derek and David are here. Others are not. We didn't always agree on everything, but it's always professional, and I just appreciate them and the time we spent in negotiations. I think we got to where we needed to be. This is fairly simple in terms of a list of items. In terms of wage increases, we have a 3-year contract. That's one of the items. And over those 3 years, it's 4% in 25, 3.5 in 26, and 3 in 27. We talked about military time counting towards a couple different things in terms of longevity and vacation time and when those accruals go up. So longevity over your time with the city, I think it's 5, 10, 15 years, something like those. So they'll be able to count military time towards that and maybe get their increase faster. I don't think that necessarily applies to a lot of the department now, but it could be something that applies in the future. In terms of examinations, it's listed in your packet here. The mayor brought up an interesting one this morning. It talks about cancer and Hep B screenings. I think there's some industry standards of how other departments do it, City of Grand Rapids, namely, in terms of there's cancer screenings as not a really costly item. Obviously, the health of the firefighters is the paramount there, but the mayor brought up that maybe that's not as clear as it could be to those who aren't in that field. And so we actually added some language to make it mutually agreeable cancer screenings to be able to, just so we're all clear on on the type of testing that would be getting done. And then in their 457 accounts, which we have 2 different forms of retirement, one being 457, which is optional. We negotiated to have it so it was the same as the police officers. Seeing that it's being in the same building, not the same line of work, but similar in terms of being first responders. I think it's always a goal of mine, and I know I won't speak for Sean and the crew, but it's nice to be very similar in terms of the benefits we offer to our firefighters as well as to our police officers, and this is one of those that makes it the same. So that was, I thought, a good thing. That's what I have, Mayor. Happy to answer any questions.
Jamie, anything?
I will agree with Mark. It was a very long process, but I think it was a very professional process, and I was happy to be a part of that. The cancer screening, all of that, I think just looking through other agreements and contracts with other departments, they also include those. So I think it's a good thing for us to start including.
President of the union, comments?
The cancer screenings were paramount. Kind of one of the big things that we were looking at. Grand Rapids recently offered it to their department. the guys I talked to said it was minimal cost, and they found a number of issues. Cancer is the number one killer in the fire service. We're dealing with PFAS and other carcinogens every day when we go to structure fires and stuff like that. They're seeping into our skin, through our gear. Testicular cancer, thyroid cancer, all sorts of skin cancers are also coming up. So that was big for us. Looking at the retirement, that's always a thing for us. We are constantly looking at ways that we can retire at a respectable age. Jeff Hull is an oddity, being able to do it at 63 years old. I don't think I will be able to do that. And at the end of the day, I don't know if we want 63-year-old firemen showing up trying to get you out of a second-story window. So looking at creative ways to get us to a retirement age and a respectable one. So I appreciate Mark for agreeing to that, with us on keel. So the rest of the negotiation, like they said, was long, but we appreciated the discussion, the open discussion, and we were able to come back and come to an agreement. So rest is.
Thank you. Questions from the commission?
What were the changes between our packet and what's? I'm
The
sorry.
mutually agreeable cancer.
I'm sorry, yeah.
That was fine. I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Are you good?
I'm good.
Okay. So, first off, what did we put in the budget for a pay increase for non-bargaining?
3.5.
3.5.
3.5.
3.5? 3.5. And what I would like to see the next time I have a contract in front of me and you're giving out this kind of raise increases, and I'm not saying they don't deserve it, they're higher than usual, I mean, if you look at them. Based on the fact that I do know the history, I know there's a lot of overtime, I know if you would look at W-2s, there's a lot of money that goes in fire, and fire and police both are very well supported because we all want them when we need them. I don't have an issue there. But what I want to see, when you give me a contract, I want to see how much is going to increase their regular salary over a course of 12 months and overtime. So that I look at this, when you're giving away raises like this for 3 years, that it's going to cost the city approximately, I know I can't hold you to an exact dollar amount, but it's gonna cost the city approximately a certain dollar amount. So that we all can look at that and say, okay, we're approving this, but we know it's gonna cost us this, kind of thing, okay? All right, and then the other question I have, would you please explain to me about the 457? Is it not a regular 457 deferred comp?
I may need some help here from somebody, Jamie or Carla.
Yeah, no, it's a regular 457.
It's a regular 457 plan. So they wanted an increase with the understanding that that was gonna help them save for the future for health insurance?
Well,
Am I getting this right?
in the early part of if I give a little context, I think that will help everyone. Early on, when the 457 plan was established, it didn't have a label that was different, but the concept, as I best understand it, was that it was to help employees save for health care premiums. That was what was communicated widely throughout the city.
But that doesn't.
But that's not what 457 is.
I know.
No, that's what I'm getting at.
I know, I get it.
I'm trying to get the background here, that's what I'm
Right.
getting at,
All right.
okay.
Yep.
So I understand what 457s are, and I
Yes.
know why they're created.
No, I do too.
Okay, so it's a regular 457 plan.
Yes.
So what they were asking for in the contract was some additional money to be put in.
Yes.
Yes, okay. And then, before I forget to ask this part, the employee may contribute more, but the city will not match those additional contributions. So since it's a regular 457 plan, I'm assuming if they do additional contributions, that it still maintains to be pre-tax. Would that be correct, Carla? Okay. For the same reason when they take it out, regardless of what they use it for, but the city can't control what they use their 457
Correct.
funds for.
Right.
It's in their philosophy or minds or whatever, it's a mechanism to help them save for this.
Exactly.
Okay. I'm good.
Good.
Thank you.
Others, commissioners? Anybody else? Comments from the public on the contract for the firefighters? Hearing none. Chief, anything?
Nothing to add.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do I hear a motion for approval of the fire contract?
So moved.
Second.
And there's a second. Further questions? One last try at it. Hearing none. Karen, please.
Rhodes,
Yes.
Simmon,
Yes.
Gunther,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Very good. Next is this is the interesting one. If you've been to the splash pad in the last week, which is one of the most joyful things I've done this week, you go down there, watch those kids having a blast. There's 2 mud holes. And Mark and the staff don't like these mud holes. It's because the design just wasn't quite right. And we're going to fill in the mud holes, right, Mark?
You're correct, Mayor. I think there's a combination of things, but what you said is 100% accurate. There's always an effort to maybe not pave everything, not concrete everything, right? So we like green spaces in our world and in our parks and in our designs. And these green areas are designed to shed the water across the grass. The issue, which is very much a positive issue, is the unbelievable amount of use that we are getting there. It just can't hang on. It can't keep up. Maybe the grass isn't established as well as it could be to be prepped for the amount of use it's getting. And so in order to avoid a maintenance headache long-term, we are really hoping to just fill them in with concrete. I don't know if it's a design flaw exactly, but it's once you get things up and going, there's always tweaks. I'd say this is a tweak, and in our world, tweaks cost lots of money. So Gerber is ready and willing to do the work. We didn't bid it out. They did the contract and built the splash pad, and best suited to continue the work that's there. They have a proposal. So this would be a waiving of the bid requirements. I have no worries that they gave us a fair price. I think they did. They are going to be able to maybe even get it done by the 4th of July, is what I heard today, which would be excellent because that splash pad is so well used. For example, if it blows hard, if the wind blows hard from the south, it blows water off the splash pad. I mean, should that have been something we planned for? Possibly, but again, almost everything we do in our lives, we tweak some as we see it run. This is another example of that, and appreciate Gerber's response. They've been so great to be partnered with, and they got us a quote quick, ready to do the work. So it's our recommendation to move forward with this, Mayor.
Please.
So I do have one question. Seeing the areas where it's at, it makes a lot of sense that we would want to put something in there to what's to prevent it from splashing out of that zone? Is it going to be slanted cement? So it's like scoped down towards a drain or?
There's a,
Okay.
I should have, that's a good question.
So that way it's, next year we're not revisiting this all over again.
There's a storm drain on what would be the north side. The other side, which doesn't get it as bad, it has a broad drainage area into the rest of the park. And then our city staff actually put one in behind the seawall too. So it's tweaking and just to be able to deal with the amount of use that's getting there. This is what we're looking to complete.
Doing this we're anticipating prevent additional mud spots.
I
from
believe it.
happening.
This will make a huge
It's not like
difference.
we're pushing the mud spot down the road a little bit.
I don't believe that.
There were dozens of kids there today, and so my wife and I decided to go to the pool and see if it was empty. The pool was full. So we did something right in this whole thing, I think.
I think so.
It was full of kids and adults both, and the splash pad too. I mean, it's just quite amazing. I'm happy. Do I hear a motion for adding that concrete to the,
So moved.
Second.
need 4 votes for that? Further questions? Yes.
In the future, if you could get a breakdown of labor and materials, that'd be great.
Sure. Anything else? We need a vote, please.
Simmon,
Yes.
Gunther,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Rhodes.
Yes.
That's my favorite item, airport things. Kendra.
What's there? You don't care?
No,
We have a
please.
resolution.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, please.
We have a resolution on another piece of equipment for the airport, and Kendra's gonna explain it to us.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me here. So, it's kind of strange. So what it is it's a reimbursable agreement with the FAA to do a flight check. So it's got multiple purposes, really. With the extension to the runway for the extra 700 foot, we had to take lights out that were already in place and they had to be moved down. So what they'll come out, they'll fly it, and they'll make sure that those are given pilots correct information. So the PAPIs will, at a quick glimpse, as pilots are coming in, it will give you, there's two lights, and what you want to see is red and white, and that, just that quick, a pilot will know they're on the right glide slope. So if it's given incorrect information, you know, it puts them in a bad position too. So in the real same thing, they got moved to a different spot, so it's just to assure that they're in the right spot, given correct information. And then the big picture is that this will also be able to give us what we need to move forward with the RNAV approach to 10, which will give us more utility for that runway to get planes in, like in bad weather and whatnot. It'll cost $17,982, and the thought is that that is pretty much, they figure that is the biggest amount. And then if it ends up, as there's a reimbursement, we would get the reimbursement, or if it were more than a 10% increase on that, we would be told ahead of time so that we could, you know, choose. And from there, that would be the amount that we would pay 5% back on.
See, why wasn't that already in the budget for the project?
Yeah, so I was attempting to get a look at that myself. I talked to Mead and Hunt, Sean Thompson there. I think a lot of it, by the sounds of it, is that the flight check with the FAA, it's somewhat of an unknown expense. Because it depends, because a lot of it, if you look at the agreement, it talks about fuel usage of their aircraft and all that kind of thing, so.
Their aircraft has.
Of the FAA. So anyways, and it's a moving target. Plus, it's not, just as Kendra said, the $17,000 there, it's, that's like the high amount is what they're saying. You know, so to the point where when they actually come out and do the flight check, it could be lower. And I do hear that that does occur. So, but anyways, and then we would get reimbursed, you know, because we paid the $17,000. Say it was $14,000, we'd get that $3,000 back. And then whatever the final, sorry, Mayor, but whatever the final invoice is, then that would be submitted then to MDOT for reimbursement under our normal reimbursing schedule. So then city's share would be 5%.
5% of the 17,000.
Or whatever the final
What's that
invoice.
has to do with that FAA check that comes every year?
Yeah, Mayor, what you're referring to is we have a allotment, I'll call it.
That
An
sounds good.
allotment of funding that comes to the city for the airport. It's $150,000. And you can stack that 150 over, I think, 3 or 4 years to do bigger projects, which we have been doing as part of the runway extension. This is eligible for to come out of that allotment of money, except for we've already spent it for this year, right? And we will get reimbursed, it just will be at some point in time in the future. And then we would pay 5% of the total cost. If it's 17,000, it's, I know Lorraine's good at math.
$900.
$900 or something, so. We have to front the money, but it's one of those vital pieces of equipment, series
It
of
is.
equipment that you really can't operate without, I think.
It's a big safety feature. It really is.
So
And
if I-
to get the RNAV approach to 10, which will open it up so that, like right now, we only have approach to 28. So if the wind was really, let's say the wind is really favoring 10 and it's really cruddy weather. If a plane comes in, they have to do what they call a circling approach, which it kind of puts them lower, it puts them without it puts them in a position that's more dangerous, and it might make them choose to go to Cadillac or Grand Rapids where they have an ILS approach, but at any rate, it just gives our airport, it would give it a lot more utility, a lot more safety, and in order to get that done, this is part of that too. And at this point, because of the moving of the lights, the PAPIs and the rails, we have to have it checked to be able to turn those back on and say, yes, they're accurate. Because right now, they believe they're accurate, but it needs to have the FAA's stamp of approval.
But they let us open it and use it.
They would. The PAPIs are turned off right now though on 10. They're turned right off in the vault. Which those are the quick glimpse, you know you're on the right, or you're, so if there's two red, you know you're too low. One red, one white, you're right on path. Two white, you're too high. So quick, it's just that quick, instant help for pilots.
Do we hear a motion for?
Wait a minute, I have a question. When we do a motion.
Oh, Lorraine.
Oh, Fred. Okay, so should there not be a budget number in this? Where is the money being charged to? I mean, you're asking us to pass this, but don't we need a budget number here? Or no?
It would be charged to the airport
I
fund, I
understand
don't know
that,
that.
but
Correct, there should be a budget number in there.
I understand the airport part. Okay, we need a budget number.
Is that possible, Carla or Brittany, to come up with in the next 30 seconds or 1 minute?
Yeah.
On the runway extension.
In the meantime,
5249.
I just wanna make sure I understand this.
And the runway
correctly.
extension line.
Yeah.
So this
See if I can
is
find
for the FAA to have a pilot fly into our airport that we can't operate unless they tell us we can operate the airport, right?
Andrew, you flew in.
Well, you can fly in currently.
No, I'm
But-
sorry, this is not at you. But
No, go
like
ahead.
the FAA is the one that kind of oversees all flying in the US, but yet we have to I'm sorry, it's just so
I think so,
government
people-
bureau, like it's just.
So they get
it's
$70,000
just a
to say,
level,
yeah, you
yeah, it's just a level of, it's kinda like with MDOT, right? You just nod your head and you say, all right, okay.
Well, I think there is some of that, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, the end goal is the,
Safety.
I know we can all maybe roll our eyes at it, but the end goal is that the experts, right? I don't think anybody that we know is
Right.
capable of doing the work that they are proposing to do. We're gonna come in and certify, prepare, direct ways that pilots can most safely land at the airport.
You
Think.
drank the Kool-Aid, didn't you?
I have some in here, Mary, you want some?
So Carla, I'm thinking 295-249? Yep. Okay. 989?
Did you memorize that or what?
Project number 68.
You all got one of these, it's in there.
Well, I memorized one, but I forgot.
The 295, I knew where to go, I had to find the other number.
989.
All right, then we
000.
can have a motion. We found it, so.
006.
Is there a motion?
moved.
And-
Second.
And there's a second. Further questions? Hearing none? You can call the question.
James,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Rhodes,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Gunther.
Yes. Begrudging. Unscheduled business.
I do have something to say. I believe we have on that note, we have our Airfest this weekend, this Saturday, which,
No, 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
it's 2 weeks?
Yeah. 28th.
I'm a week ahead. Usually I'm a week behind.
The Tuba Bar concert this Sunday may be the best ever. I've heard this person and it's gonna be fabulous. 4 o'clock at Emmanuel Lutheran. I'm gonna throw that out because, you know, Ed'll be coming back to watch and so it should be good. Others? For the good of the world, I'll go over.
Depot Park ribbon cutting on Tuesday, June 24th, 3 p.m. Be there, be square.
Can we flush the toilet?
Not yet. Go before you come.
That's
Go
not a
to-
Steve question.
Have you heard anything?
Nothing positive.
We made contact with the DNR office today, Cleveland Van Brink, and we still haven't received paperwork.
And they weren't interested in moving it up or getting it approved.
Doesn't appear to be on any level of a fast track.
Okay. Don't use the bathroom.
Contact your state rep. We need to get on it.
Others, for the good of the group, we're adjourned.
All right. I just wanted to make sure. I got the same.
They did, but then they.
Charges.
Yeah, yeah.